So, welcome back to Mo's Minute. Mo's Minute on location. We have embarked on our Highway 49 road trip, and so we thought we'd give you some inside information on some of California's earliest pioneers. So today, we are at McCollum Hill, visiting the grave of Edith Irvine. So I know most people who did not read Earthquake at Dawn about 17 times when they were a child, like I did, don't know who Edith Irvine is.
Who's Edith Irvine?
Exactly. Thank you for asking. So she was an amateur photographer who lived in the area. She basically lived out her life in quiet obscurity. And she was born here, she was born in Sheep's Ranch, which is an unincorporated community like 30 minutes away in one of these directions. And that was on January 7th, 1884. And then, at some point they moved to McCollum Hill, and her house is on Main Street, but it's probably owned by somebody else now, so we're not going to try that. But, she came from a wealthy family. Her father, Thomas Irvine, was a gold miner and a real estate agent. And her grandfather came from Ireland. And he was really successful in real estate in San Francisco along with his brothers. So the family had money. She was connected, I don't know how. I know I'm a genealogist, but I haven't gone that far. She was related to the Irvine family from the Irvine Ranch, in Southern California. And so since she came from a wealthy family, she had a opportunity to get into photography. So she even had her own personal darkroom built by the time she was 14, because we all have that. And in 1898, she was actually invited by PG&E to take pictures of the Electra Power Dam, which was one of the first, or probably the first, hydroelectricity project in the state of California. And so that was 4 years, ended in 1902. And then in 1906, this part's important, she was embarking on a round-the-world trip. And the first leg of this trip took her from Stockton to San Francisco. So you might ask, what happened on April 18th, 1906? The answer is the 1906 earthquake and fire of San Francisco.
Oh!
I know. Mind blown. And then you're going to ask, how is that connected to Edith Irvine? Well, let me tell you. So she had taken the ferry or whatever from Stockton the day before. And she was actually in the harbor outside of the city at 5 a.m. that morning when the earthquake started. Like, here she is on the boat going, oh shit, should things be shaking like that? And no, they shouldn't have been, but they were. And so, being the budding photographer that she was, she kind of blew off her round-the-world trip because, whatever. There was time to do that later. And she literally swiped a baby carriage. I'm not kidding. She swiped a baby carriage. And she put her camera in the baby carriage. So all the cops roaming the city, making sure that no one took pictures, didn't know what she was doing. And because of that, we have some really great pictures that I will make sure I show you at the end of the video. But we have some really great pictures, like first-hand pictures of the earthquake. So that was 1906. But she was a modest person. And so when she finally decided to leave the area, realizing, this shit's bad, she came back here to McCollum Hill to develop her pictures, and then that round-the-world trip never happened. And then in 1912, she became a member of the Eastern Star, which is a women's side of a fraternal Mormon organization. Hey, be respectful of Edith Irvine, okay? I'm sure she liked dogs. And that's important later. So in the 1910 census, she had put that she was a photographer down as her occupation. But for some reason, by 1920, she had given that up and gone to teaching. And it seems odd, but if you think about it, most people don't even know that she existed. And most people don't even know that she was an amateur photographer. But she had a hard life. And so even though she was teaching by 1920, and former students said that she was a really good teacher and she was fair, but she was strict, you know, the kind of thing you want from decent teachers, she had to give that up by 1931. No one ever found out for sure what was wrong with her. Maybe it was like, I'm not a doctor, maybe it was like rheumatoid arthritis or something, but she suffered from severe joint pains for most of her adult life. And then she also started to lose her hearing really young. So she was almost completely deaf by the time she was 45. And since no one could figure out what was causing these joint pains, the American Medical Association of the early 1900s decided to give her painkillers and just keep giving her painkillers. And sadly, she became addicted to them. And then she tried to take her own life. And then she was put in like an inpatient like rehab. Well, it was probably a sanitarium because I don't think they had much in the way of rehab in the 1930s, but I could be wrong. And she was released from there, but she also became an alcoholic. She just didn't really know how to deal with these severe pains that no one could do anything about, really. And so, like I said, she never really recovered from that. And so she died on August 14th, 1949. She was 65 years old. So her brother, Bob, there was only the two of them. They had another brother who died when he was a baby, so it was just the two of them. She never married, and he didn't marry till he was like 60 some odd years old. So they lived together like their entire lives. They were super close. And so he became her guardian. And after she died, he retained ownership of her pictures and her papers and all that stuff. So no one knew that these things existed until 1988 when Bob's son, Jim, who was Edith's nephew, her only living relative at that point, donated everything to Brigham Young University. That's where the Mormon Eastern Star thing becomes important. They obviously had to be Mormon or she wouldn't have been able to join that, and they probably wouldn't have donated her personal effects to BYU, but they did. So I believe now they're owned by Bancroft Library. They're also in the public domain because it's been over 60 years since she died. But like I said, I'll make sure I show some of her pictures at the end of this video. So yeah, that is the story of Edith Irvine. There's no headstone for anyone in the Irvine family, but they're all here. Her parents, her brother, her little brother that died in infancy, they're all in this plot here. And if you are interested in reading more about her, definitely check out Earthquake at Dawn by Christiana Gregory, because it's a really good book. And I may or may not have checked out a copy for myself a couple weeks ago and have it to read on this trip, just in case. So yeah, thank you again for tuning in, and we will see you probably tomorrow for another riveting episode of Mo's Minute.